A single smile, a firm handshake, or just the name of a university on a resume. That is all it takes for your brain to quietly rewrite everything it thinks about a stranger. You think you are evaluating them fairly, but you're not. You are making major life calls about their intelligence, their honesty, and their competence from one single trait, one moment, one first impression, and it quietly colors everything else. This is the halo effect, and it is deciding who gets hired, who gets a lighter sentence in court, and who your brain has already written off before they have even said a word. The real version is this. Any single trait that stands out, good or bad, quietly rewrites the narrative your brain builds. It doesn't have to be looks. A confident opening line, a warm smile, a sharp outfit. One thing. And suddenly, their ideas seem sharper, their intentions seem cleaner, their work seems more impressive, even if none of those things have anything to do with each other. A landmark study found that 57% of hiring managers admitted that physically attractive candidates are more likely to get the job, even when competing against someone equally qualified. Not the most experienced, not the best prepared. The one who looked right in the first 30 seconds got the job. In courts, it gets worse. Studies on real trials, not lab simulations, real verdicts, show that attractive defendants consistently receive lighter sentences for the exact same crimes as less attractive defendants. Same evidence, same charges, different outcome, based on a face. And it works the other way too. One bad impression, one awkward silence, one thing your brain flags as wrong, and suddenly their ideas seem weaker, their motives seem questionable, their competence seems shaky. Psychologists call this the horn effect, the evil twin of the halo. Same mechanism, opposite direction. Here's what makes both of them harder to catch than almost any other cognitive bias. The halo effect doesn't just change how you feel about someone, it changes what you notice about them. You don't just like them more, you see them differently. And you have absolutely no idea it's happening. But what if you could hack this flaw? Later in this video, I will show you how to use this exact bias to flip the script and project an instant positive halo, even if you don't possess movie star looks. The term was coined by psychologist Edward Thorndike. The mechanism is simple. Your brain does not evaluate people like a checklist. It forms a single overall impression from the most obvious thing it notices first. And then it forces everything else to be consistent with that impression. Your brain is a storyteller. It picked a character for this person in the first few seconds, and now it is making everything fit the script. The second piece of research is the one that should really unsettle you. Richard Nisbett and Timothy Wilson at the University of Michigan showed two groups of students a video of the exact same professor. Same man, same voice, same physical appearance. In version A, he was warm, friendly, and engaging. In version B, he was cold, distant, and harder to read. After watching, the students were asked to rate his physical appearance, his accent, and his mannerisms. The warm version, his accent was charming, his appearance was attractive, his mannerisms were likable. The cold version, same accent, now it graded, same appearance, now unappealing, same mannerisms, now irritating, same person, completely different human being, because of one trait. Let's pause here for a second. Ask yourself, How many times have you dismissed a brilliant idea or trusted the wrong person simply because your brain fell into this exact same trap? But here is the part that Nisbett and Wilson found most disturbing. When they asked the students whether the professor's warmth had influenced their ratings, most of them said no. They were certain they had evaluated each trait independently. They were wrong. The halo wasn't something they chose. It happened underneath the level of conscious thought. The third piece comes from the University of Minnesota. Researchers gave participants photographs of strangers and asked them to predict their futures. The more attractive strangers were automatically rated as kinder, more intelligent, and more socially skilled. They were expected to have better marriages, better careers, and happier lives. From a photograph, from one thing. A 2016 meta-analysis even found that teacher grading is systematically affected by this. Students perceived as more attractive receive higher grades independent of their actual performance. Your brain builds a story from the first thing it notices, fills in the blanks to fit that story, and does it all without telling you. But simply knowing this trap exists isn't enough. How do we stop being victims of our own minds? And more importantly, how do we make this flaw work for us? Here are 3 tools to regain control. Three fixes. 2 for when you're the one judging. 1 for when you're the one being judged. Fix 1. Divide and conquer your impressions. Before you meet anyone you need to evaluate, whether it's a job candidate, a new business partner, or a blind date, write down what you are actually looking for. Not after the meeting, before. Write down 5 specific, separate traits. Then, after the meeting, rate each one individually, one at a time, in order, without going back to change your scores. Psychologists call this attribute separation, but you can just think of it as dividing and conquering your impressions. It forces your brain to evaluate traits sequentially instead of letting one single spark bleed into everything else. Fix 2. Balance the halo. When you notice yourself having a strong, instantly positive reaction to someone, deliberately look for one thing they might not be good at. Not to be cynical, not to tear them down, but to balance the halo. Because the halo runs below conscious awareness, the only way to counter it is to force your attention in the opposite direction. Sometimes the best way to fix it is to remove the trigger entirely. Example, when major US orchestras started auditing musicians behind a physical screen, the number of women hired increased significantly. Same music, different outcome, because the visual trigger was gone. Fix 3. Lead with warmth. This one is for when you are the one being evaluated. Since the halo effect is real and mostly unavoidable, you can use it to your advantage. Research from Princeton University found that warmth is the single strongest trigger of a positive halo. More than looks, more than competence. Warmth. So before any important meeting, interview, or first impression, lead with warmth. Ask about them, use their name, show genuine interest before you try to prove how smart you are. The halo you create in those first 60 seconds will color everything they see next. This isn't manipulation, it's understanding how the human brain works and working with it instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Here's what I want you to take from this. You were never just objectively evaluating the people around you. You were writing stories about them from the very first line, and so was everyone who has ever evaluated you. The halo effect doesn't make you shallow, it makes you human. But knowing it exists gives you something most people will never have, the chance to catch the story before it writes itself. Tell me in the comments, What is the biggest halo you've ever given someone, only to find out you were completely wrong about them? Or a horn effect, someone you wrote off instantly who ended up completely surprising you? Drop your story below, no names needed. If this series is changing how you see the decisions you make, hit subscribe, because next week we are breaking down the cognitive bias that makes people lose fortunes while on a winning streak, the gambler's fallacy. And it doesn't just happen in casinos. I'll see you then.